a go. So here we are. So we are live. So first of all, Paul, I want to thank you very much, mate, for taking the time to jump on my podcast with me. For those that don't know, Paul is the owner of. Oh fucking hell, my head's gone.
Bare Knuckle Performance.
Bare Knuckle. I was about to say, mate. Yeah, sorry, my fucking head. I just had a moment as well. And Bare Knuckle Performance. One of the leaders in killing it in the chop world, machining parts and building some cool as fuck FXRs. And so, Paul, where did it all start? How far back does the bike scratch go?
It's like most guys, dads and uncles and all that kind of thing. That my dad was into. My dad had cool chopper, and the uncle did, and just was around hot rod culture a lot too, muscle cars and hot rods, and it's just been in my blood since day one. And I was like doing things with my hands, and I got out of school, got out of college, had a job I hated, started working part-time in a motorcycle shop, and I'd already gotten a TIG certification, so I could TIG weld, and I'd done a little bit of machine work. So I started messing around, making parts. Then I started making frames. I left that shop, started my own thing. Basically, I couldn't get a full-time job customizing motorcycles or, just working in a cool independent shop. So I was like, well, screw it. I'll go do it on my own. And I did. And,
I mean, that's brave. That's brave, to like jump in and,
everybody around me believed in me, I think, more than I did. I was 26 when I took the dive, and I had an amazing, what most people call an amazing job, a high paying job, and with a great future. But I hated every minute of it. Like, I didn't like getting up in the morning and getting in the truck to go to work. So like what I tell a lot of people is, if I'd have known how tough it was going to be, I probably wouldn't have done it. And now where I'm at, I'm so glad I didn't know, because, just having that never say die attitude, I never did. And powered through a lot of stuff, and, a few financial, economic downturns in the, the world economy, and all kinds of wild stuff.
Man.
And
sorry to interrupt. Like, when you go back to saying, if you knew how hard it was going to be, you never would have done it. What's the initial things that you would have, what you've experienced? What would have made you go, oh, fuck this, I don't know if I can do this?
I thought if you just made a better product, people would flock to you. And only in the last few years have I learned that marketing is such a big component of, any kind of business. Basically any successful business, marketing is bigger than product development. That's how, like, what was that brand a couple years ago? Had the red Supreme, like it's a white t-shirt.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They were getting like $120, and we all know that's a $3 t-shirt. That's how much, and it's because of marketing. So I didn't know that. I didn't understand the sacrifice. I didn't understand, like, I had young children at the time. Let's see. I opened up in 2003, so my daughter would have been about to turn 3, and my son would have been 1.
Wow.
Kids at home. I was married at the time. 5 or 6 years later, that was done with. So then I'm like a half-time dad. I had my kids half the time, and juggling. But when you're in the middle of it, you don't even really realize it's like, this is life. But then you look back and you go, geez, how much bigger family things have I missed? Family reunions or Christmases or whatever. How many vacations have you made? But I was doing what I loved, and I've always made time for my direct family, my kids. So now I'm starting to reap the benefit of all that hard work. I kind of invested in myself early on, so it's all making sense now. But man, it's not the cakewalk that people might think it is.
No, do you know what it's like? I mean, obviously for me, this is a little bit easier in the respect that I haven't got to have overhead of a shop and and bills to pay in that respect. But I'm kind of out of my comfort zone with like the whole 666 customs social media thing. Like, obviously, like I said off air, like I just wanted to kind of create a bit of a platform to cut up stuff and show people how I'm just having fun. This, like I said earlier, I'm certainly not a fabricator by trade. I don't claim to be, and I just kind of wanted to show my twist on things. And the podcast came about, like, I felt that there was a gap for the people that didn't have a big following, and or looked or kind of went about things slightly different. But I find it really, really hard, and like I say to my missus, like, even though it's getting bigger and people like are inviting me to shows and things, like, financially I can't afford to get to them sometimes. And then like, my kids, obviously, they'll come and see me sat here in the corner of my front room, and they're like, so it's trying to, like, I mean, it's interesting you touched on that, because it's hard as a dad to try and follow your dream, even though at the beginning it might not really be rewarding, but you kind of feel that it's got something that you have to run with,
Mm-hmm.
to then balance family, and then it's a difficult one, isn't it?
It's very difficult. I was talking to a friend that's in the industry today, Big Joe from Live Free Cycles out in New Hampshire, and he's on the other end. He's 5 or 6 years younger than me, but his kids are like 1 and 3 or something. And it's,
Wow.
if you look through our history, we've been in it for 21 years. It's only been the last 5 years that I've been able to stretch my legs, because my daughter went off to college. My son came to work with me. But I wasn't running to wrestling meets, and I wasn't running to horseback, whatever stuff, horse jump stuff, and at home half of the time helping with homework, and plus all the negative stuff that comes along with teenagers, chasing them down and getting into fights with them. But when it all kind of rated, it was off to the races. I'm like, okay, now I can dedicate as much time as I feel necessary or want, and make this thing really grow. Um, but man, I wouldn't give it up. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like I understand where you're at. I don't know, how old are your kids?
My oldest is going to be 13 this year. My youngest is going to be 10.
Oh,
And
so you're right in the thick of it. It's going to get interesting here soon. So yeah, I mean, so many people make it happen. It's like anything, man. It's like, it's never the right time to have a kid. It's never the right time to have a dog. It's never the right time
yeah,
to start a business. You just do it, and it happen. And like I said, that's why, man, I'm glad I didn't know. So you just hop
yeah,
in. It all works out.
yeah. No, that's it. And it's like, so like I say to my missus sometimes, I say, like, I wish I was that guy that could just fall into line. I mean, I work full time. I got a full time job. I work day shift, and then I do 4 days, and then I do 4 nights, and so I'm doing days and night 12-hour shifts. But like I said to her, like, I wish I was that guy that could just fall into line and just have no crazy ideas, like.
Yeah.
And for me, because I love the custom culture so much, and obviously I don't have deep pockets to go and buy a Harley or travel the world, and I just realized that, like I said, I just thought that this is kind of my contribution, and I know other people are doing it, and I'm trying to do it my own way with the podcasts and things. I just kind of felt, well, if this is what I can give, then this is what I can give, and it's slowly taking form and moving forward. But when the kids are looking, and you're like, look, I think, and they're looking at you like, Dad, you spend all this time in front of a computer, or you're editing, or you're in the shed cutting up metal, and I'm like saying to them, like, look, I can do this, I can do this, I can make it, I can, because I fundamentally believe that with the social media thing, I feel that I can take this to a level where it's eventually going to start to kind of, my ambition is to create content, whether it be podcasts or YouTube stuff, all related to custom code, or all related to the custom scene, and to provide a living to support my family.
Mm-hmm. Are you having fun?
That's kind of, yeah. I mean, I find it stressful, like, because I'm
Right.
not very good at editing, and I'm not very good at this stuff, really. I just try and do, like, what I can.
Well, I think there's good stress and there's bad stress. I consider good stress like
Yeah,
we've just hit another growth spurt and we have some new problems to figure out. That's good stress. Bad stress
yeah,
is the economy isn't doing well, or an employee gets hurt or whatever. There's different varying levels of stress and how it affects you, obviously. But the thing to think about, the way I always did it, and actually the reason I got divorced, which has not much to do with anything, but it does have to do what you're saying, is when I was married, I didn't want to be at home, right? So when I had a chance to be home, I'd stay at work. Then when I got divorced, it was like, okay, every other week is, once the kids are off school, I'm at home and it's quality time.
Yeah,
So your position, yeah, dad's working, but dad's building something. Dad's creating something,
yeah,
Now, when I want to go on vacation with my kids, it's a kick-ass vacation and it's straight up, quality time. It's just me and my kids. We took my dad last year on one, but it's not, like so many people get wound up, just get so caught up in the rat race that they forget about quality time, even though they're not really building anything. They're just, 9 to 5, and then they get off work and they have to unwind and they hate their job. So they drink or do whatever,
yeah.
if you're including your children or, setting aside, a specific amount of time. And that's the key, is just quality time. Not everybody's sitting in front of a TV or a computer screen, engaging and involving one another.
No, that's it, isn't it?
That to me, like, to spend an hour a night with your kids uninterrupted and totally focused is better than being, everybody gets home at 5 and then they all go to their own rooms and don't even talk at dinner. That's not,
Yeah,
that's
no,
not,
no, that's it, isn't it? I mean, like for me, like I grew up in Spain. I mean, I'm born in the UK, but I grew up in Spain, and like over there, like you could do your full day's work, and it might be a long day, but the climate allowed you to kind of 8, 9 o'clock at night. You could, or finish your dinner, and go for a walk with the family. And like in the UK, that doesn't happen. And I mean,
right.
for me, my dream is to go back to Spain and with my family to do that. To do my day's work, and then at the end of the day, just go for a simple walk and
Yeah.
just no gadgets. I mean, we did it today. Me and my two boys. We went for about an hour's walk, and it's so important, just a bit of fresh air and just walk with my kids and just simple. Do you know what I mean? It
Absolutely.
was,
Yeah. That's awesome. Good for you guys.
yeah, no, it was. So back. Let's get back to the bike scene. So obviously 20 years is like that's some good going. I mean, fucking hell, that's, and like you say, you've been through the recession in 2008, which hit the world crazy, and
Mm-hmm.
and you and you've seen like the style drastically change. I mean, I think in the last 5 6 years, the custom scene has it's gone through a crazy wave. I mean, it's an incredible wave, but like, what kind of you felt that was different for you, like in your way of doing things, that enabled you to fundamentally to continue to progress, and like you said last year, having one of your best years. What do you feel that was different?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think because so just to back up, when we got started, we were like the skinny chopper, skinny tire, skinny chopper, everything was skinny. We never got into the fat tire thing. But when we got started, the bulk of our business was building frames, custom frames. So we would build a frame to fit whatever. That was our thing. It was like you can choose every piece, every dimension. You can choose at every different, engine and transmission driveline combo. So that kept us going through that whole weird, in the aftermath of all the biker build off stuff. Everybody wanted fat tires and a lot of rake, and then there was a lot of skinny tire guys too. But the fact that we could do anything that you asked for, that kept us going. But because we were building our own frames, I decided to buy CNC equipment, which just, I mean, it was kind of a dumb luck accident kind of a thing, because the more I got into that, the more product we could then make. And then 2015, we kind of had a change in direction, but also there was a just kind of a catastrophe that happened. And when that happened, I sold all my frame fixtures. I sold all my Springer fixtures. We used to spin fenders. I sold my spinning lathe.
Wow.
Yeah, we made like anything fabrication. I got rid of it, and we went to where all we do is machine work. Of course, we still hand fabricate. We still make, we still build bikes, obviously.
Yeah.
We still bang sheet metal when it's a custom bike. But we got rid of all that stuff from a product standpoint. And after the big tire, so basically jumping in the middle of the whole fat tire bike, we're about riding the bike. Like that's why the tires are skinny. That's why things have to make sense, because whether I'm building you a bike or you're just using our parts, I want you to enjoy that. I want to improve your motorcycle time. Your time on the bike, I want it to be as enjoyable as possible. So it couldn't have worked better for me, because once the whole big tire thing died out, the real choppers stuck around and we were part of that. And I've always been an FXR guy ever since I worked at that other bike shop. Man, there was a dude where I grew up that had just a super fast early 90s FXR that I've known him since like grade school, older dude. So I've always had a thing for FXRs and choppers. And then, once the chopper thing kind of changed in the like mid teens, it went from people really building a lot of stuff to people just quote curating older parts and then putting them together in a new configuration, which that's fine to me. Like, there's a lot of cool bikes, but to me, it's too limiting. Like, I don't want to reuse people's shit stuff. Sorry. Like, occasionally, yeah, we do reuse something, but it's very rare, like I'd rather something gets ridden and like weathers naturally, rather than, hey, this looks like an old motorcycle, but it just got put together last night,
Yeah.
Then after that started to fade out, then here come the FXRs, and then here come the Dynas, and then the touring bikes. And thank God the performance bagger thing, took over compared to the fat or the tall big tire bagger thing.
Do you think that's to do with the AMA with the super bikes and the where they're racing them?
So a lot's happened in the last few years. Indian coming onto the stage has Harley paying attention to all the FXR, the club style bike, with the fairing and taller suspension and but still sometimes having bags on them. That has been good for all of us, because it's created not just better platforms for us to work from, it's also brought younger guys into it, and now we're starting to see all those guys that are like, yeah, my FXR is cool, my Dyna's cool, my performance bagger is cool, but I kind of want a chopper again. But maybe they don't want to go back to a kickstart panhead, which I still have, almost one of everything, but
wow,
really fun to ride a super fast FXR with killer suspension, but it doesn't look like anything else because you've modified the neck and it's got taller tubes, but it still, absolutely screams, and it's still a good handling bike in the corners. So
yeah,
I couldn't have asked for it to go any better than it has. It's been like every turn has been like, oh, that's awesome, because that's what we're into anyway.
Yeah, because like obviously the FXR, am I right in thinking that it was designed by the same dude that built the Buell?
Yeah, that's a common.
Is that right? Or
yes, Eric Buell. Eric Buell had a lot to do with it. I think he only had. There was part of it he didn't do the whole thing on his own, and maybe somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm 99.9% sure that's correct. I think he had a lot to do with the triangle and a lot of
with the handling,
the chassis design, but he didn't do the whole thing. However, credit where credit's due, it wouldn't have happened without him. And obviously he's very performance minded. And like it may not have happened without him. So, thank God he did what he did.
Yeah, because like we were saying earlier, like all of a sudden the FXR scene is just, it's blown up, and then obviously you got all the, I'm guessing the age group of the guys pulling the wheelies and dragging them 90 degrees plus, they got to be what, late 20s, mid 30s, like the majority, which is obviously a young age for the Harley scene.
A lot of them, but so we're right outside of St. Louis, Missouri, and St. Louis is called by a lot of people the stunt capital of the world or whatever. There was a group here called the Street Fighters, and those guys in the late 90s, early 2000s, they were putting out like home videos with all this crazy stuff, and but they were all on street bikes. And a lot of those dudes have now, progressed onto the Harley. So there's a lot of guys that are like my age or a couple years younger that are doing that stuff as well. And there's some of the big, but yeah, I think they're the pioneers in that. Jason Pullen was obviously one of the first. And then you've got, like Sit Down Steve from here in St. Louis. He was a street fighter. I think I don't get too far deep into that stuff, but he runs around with them, however you want to look at it. but then there's this whole new generation. We're just like everything, man. Like, you know, it was weird when we first saw a backflip on a dirt bike, right? And now there's triple backflips, triple front flips, there's double
Yeah.
back, two people on the bike. It's like once you kind of break that seal, you know, it's like the whole dam is going to break. And now these young guys just go just so insane. Like jump like a wheelie to jump on the bike and land in the wheelie and ride the wheelie out. It's just, you know, it's so beyond me. Like it's nuts.
Yeah, that's it, and I mean, and to be honest, like obviously, it's good in the respect that it will continue to push the custom Harley scene, the custom
Yep.
V twin scene. You know,
Yep.
it's
They'll keep breaking, so they'll keep needing my parts.
that's it. That's it. I mean, I think, am I right in thinking I seen you guys have recently developed a new swing arm, a billet,
Yeah.
a billet
So
swing arm.
we were in the FXR tour for Born Free last year, and we did our first. I've had that swing arm drawn up since 2017, and about when I was gonna release it, I hadn't shown anybody. But then all of a sudden, there's like 5 or 6 other people came out with FXR swing arms. So I'm like, well, I'm putting that on the shelf. And then last year, I was already thinking about it. Jason, Justin asked us to be a part of the tour. I was like, well, this is a great time. And then I think my son was like, why don't we turn that into a monoshock? So we did a monoshock. Probably the only one we'll ever do because
That's cool.
a lot of framework and everything, and it's just not something you can sell to people. And it's also cool to say that we did it once and whatever. But that same swing arm will be available later this year with conventional shock mounts. And it's one which I don't. There might be somebody else out there that did a one-piece billet swing arm, but I'm not sure who it was or if it did happen. But obviously the one piece is going to be more rigid, and it's also very organic. There's a lot of kind of square trussy looking swing arms, and nothing against them, but our style is a little bit more organic and kind of flowing and
I mean, almost like to say like 3D printed, like very, like you said, very cut. It looks incredible. I mean, I saw it and I was just like, the hollow, all the gussets in it. And I was like, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah. So we live in the Midwest, so there's always grit and grime on the roads, and when you've got all that truss work on the inside, it just packs full of dirt. So I put my cavities on the outside so you see them, and then it's reinforced to the inside, so easy to keep it clean. And strong as can be. We run stress tests on everything, and we always put a bunch of miles on stuff before we sell it too, just to work out any bugs there might be. But so far we've been happy with it, and later this year we'll be releasing those. They'll be limited run. Like I think the first run will probably be 10.
Okay.
Those are probably already spoken for, so there might be 1 or 2 that I'll be able to sell, but depending on the how they're received, we'll do another run or 2. And it's kind of fun sometimes just to do a couple of something, just because then you have something special then.
And you'll have people wanting it, so they'll be waiting for the next like small production run, something similar.
Absolutely.
What's the rough turnaround time on a machine, like from a solid, because obviously like you said they're a solid lump of billet, so from the block of billet hitting the bench to a finished product in machine time, what we're talking?
Now that I have everything worked out, it doesn't take near as long, but I can't remember. I think it took, and there's also multiple pieces. So you got to make the machine, you got to machine the swing arm, but then there's axle adjusters, then there's the blocks that go on the back for the axle adjuster. And then we have like stainless steel inserts so that your wheel spacers on the inside and your axle head and the nut, they bear down on stainless instead of on aluminum. Then there's your shock mounts, then there's your brake mount, then there's the axle, and then the nut. We make all that stuff, the washers. So there's a lot. I mean, I don't know how many hours it is now that we say it like that, but to just make machine the swing arm, it's probably 6 hours, I think. And that's a total guess. I've got my computers here. I could go back and look how long it took, but
I actually thought it was going to be longer, to be honest.
What's that?
I actually thought it was going to be long. I thought you were going to say like a couple of days, like in machining this.
That's machine time. You also have to set the machine up numerous times because you've got to put a plate in there to stand it up, and then you have to indicate everything, and you're switching tools in and out. So that's why when you go to do more, you do each step of the process multiple times.
Yeah.
Set them on the bench, go to the next process, and then like I've already got a whole bunch of all the accessory pieces made for when we do the production run of the actual swing arm. So it's a lot of time and effort, and you've also got 3-inch by I think 13-inch by 24-inch chunk of aluminum that you got to lug around, and you end up making a lot of chips out of that much aluminum because I think we use roughly 20% of that piece of material.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It'd almost be worth investing in a what do they call it, a furnace?
Yeah. Forge, or I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a balance.
Yeah, that's incredible.
You got to make a million of them before it makes sense financially, and
yeah, true. Yeah.
the way I do it, and it's one of those things like we were talking before the show started. If people don't want to buy one, that's fine because I really like it and I had the chance to make it. So
Yeah.
it's cool because it's there and it's something that we created.
And that's it, and like you say, it's obviously trying to put your twist on it, which and I think really kind of not. I mean, like one thing I really noticed with especially with your social media platform with Instagram, like you can clearly see that you don't really give a fuck what anyone else thinks, which I think is probably the secret to half of it. To being able to ignore all the time wasters, all the crap, all the shit,
Well,
and just kind of stick to your own and just middle finger to society type of, like, at the end of the day, your products and what you're doing is going to speak for itself anyway. So you don't
right.
even have to justify yourself,
Yeah, it's I guess I never really thought about it that way, but the way that we design our parts and do our thing, again, before we were live, just we never make a part based on we need to make one also, or where can we price it. We make it, prove on whatever's out there, or come up with something that isn't out there, and then we price. We have a very strict pricing formula that we stick to. Just based off cost basis, and then we have to cut in our dealers and everything. And wherever that price lands, that price lands. And if people don't want to buy it, that's fine, because again, we build enough bikes here. Mike's not here today, but Mike's our primary bike guy. He builds about 90% of the bikes. And we've got a line. We've probably got 12 or 13, 14 bikes to build right now.
Wow.
And those guys,
that's insane.
Stuff they don't ask, like, oh, is there a cheaper way to make that swing arm, or is there a cheaper way to do that? They just want it because it's, that's what they want, So we're very fortunate that we do have a following. And, I think everybody, the whole world would do better if they just quit worrying about what other people thought. Like, and I'm not saying like to be rude or to be, a nasty person, because
no, not at all.
It's very much, I'm a firm believer in the golden rule. I'm going to treat people how I want to be treated. But I'm also not going to bow down to some BS that people make up, whether it's in the world or just in the world period. It's,
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, it was like the same for me. I spent so long thinking, I really want to, I mean, so I used to tattoo before, and I absolutely love the tattoo world. Obviously having a family, I couldn't risk too much trying to, I had no consistent income coming in, so it was becoming a stressful thing. And I mean, but I love the tattoo world. But kind of where I'm going with it is on my Instagram page, on my tattoo page, there's no pictures of me. I was so like nervous in being in front of a camera. Like I've achieved so much in myself just doing this, because like I really fucking struggle with it. Like I don't feel. I mean, talking to you, it's great because it feels like a video chat. Like just a couple of guys just chatting about bikes and about life. I never thought sitting here we would spend 5 minutes or so talking about family. I think it's awesome. And I'm completely psyched out on the fact that I'm talking to a guy that's doing some incredible shit with bikes on the other side of the world. I've never been to America, and like I just love it.
It's, I mean, get a bad rap because our government's pretty whack, but the American people, man, it's very much, for the most part, man, just live and let live. Like, you handle your business, I'll handle mine. And, it's great over here. And, like what you were saying about, number one, thank you for saying that about me, but I'm as regular people as anybody else. Like, dude, there's no hero worship in my life, coming or going. Like, I'm just a regular guy, and um, yeah, I love what I do, and I'm very fortunate that people like what we do. And that's where it ends. Other than that, I'm just a shop rat, like I love being in the shop and doing what we do and creating and so on and so forth. But the reason why you never imagined yourself doing this, because you weren't out of your comfort zone, so like
100%,
back,
100%.
I dropped my job where like I was 26 years old. I quit my job. They're like, dude, you're going to be a partner. And I was working for a huge financial firm. They're like, you're going to be partner by the time you're 30. You're killing it. And I'm like, don't care. I got to go. But then it's like, oh, how do I buy groceries? What about that
Yeah.
mortgage? What about, this? And then, I sold my truck, and then I just had an old panhead to get to work, that whole winter, which winters in our state are not very, very conducive to only owning a motorcycle. But I got out of my comfort zone, and I had to think of different ways to hustle and different ways to create and different ways to get things done. And that makes you grow, and that's what you're doing. Like, you probably never thought 5 years ago you'd have this podcast.
No,
Talking
no, absolutely, mate. I mean, and it's like, so I spent so long, like I've learned so, and I like listening back to myself because when we finish this podcast in like a week or so, what I do is I start to edit it and I mess around and then I put it on Spotify. So I have to listen back to myself somewhat, and like it's crazy how much I've learned about myself listening to myself. And what's really crazy is I notice that I really mumble a lot, and I tend to go from one thing to the other. My brain's going off so much, and I'm trying to and I wonder why. Like, I wonder how people are still wanting to entertain listening to me, But
you get an
but
active.
I guess people appreciate what what I think people kind of, and I could be wrong, but I think that people see the genuine excitement in what I'm trying to do. I don't really care. I don't really care that maybe I'll only get 10 views, and I mean, I never said to you when I first reached out to you, like, look, jump on my podcast, Paul. You're gonna get 1,000 people gonna like your page, and because that's not who I feel that just being honest and kind of staying true to what I stand for, which is just connecting with like-minded people and feeling that excitement around the culture. But like, I spent so long like, I wouldn't be in front of a camera, finding excuses to why I wouldn't fucking cuts. I mean, who cuts up a tank when they need the tank really to kind of use the bike? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing, but I fucking cut it up anyway. And like, instead of funds are quite tight, so before I would have been like, oh, I can't create this thing behind me because I don't have a spare $20 to get someone to print it. So I was like, well, these are A3 pieces of paper that are laminated. It's none of my stuff's fancy. And I think, and what's crazy is I think that people that are potentially in a different financial bracket or whatever, it doesn't matter. I think that people kind of appreciate that I'm still the same guy from the first podcast to 37. I don't know. I'm not always the greatest at explaining it, but you know what I mean?
So just how you didn't promise me followers or views, I didn't ask.
Exactly.
Dude, you want to talk about motorcycles? I'll talk about motorcycles.
Yeah.
Like, I'm all good,
Yeah, exactly.
People say that, like, you mentioned tattooing. I got tattooed yesterday, and
Yeah, you said, yeah, I remember.
yeah, so we've built a bike for him, and this is my first opportunity to get tattooed by him. Absolutely great dude. And he's like, man, I'm sorry, because he was texting me. He's getting ready to buy a couple more bikes, panheads, and he's a chopper guy. And he's like, man, I'm sorry to bother you all the time about motorcycles. I'm like, if I'm not talking to you about motorcycles, I'm thinking about them, building them, making parts for them, talking to the guys at the shop about them. Dude, it's about 80% of what I do, so no harm, man. You can talk to me about motorcycles anytime.
Yeah, that's it, and the kind of like, I what I'm learning now is like when I get to speak to so many of you cool fucking guys that are doing this shit, like that, the ones that have lasted 20 years, you have a similar thing. It's, you don't care what other people fucking think. Obviously you're just doing it because you love it. And like one thing I've learned, and I'd be interesting to kind of hear your thought on this. I've realized recently that passion doesn't come into it when you're killing it, when you're succeeding, when you're thriving. I feel that the passion comes in on the day that you don't want to do it.
Oh, 100%, man.
You
Like,
know?
you don't get out of bed because you don't get out of bed and hustle out to work because things are easy. You hustle out to work because you love it and it's not easy. You got to get in and you got to put some effort in. You know, like
Yeah.
I remember Jesse James said something once about how he was going to work all the time at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's driving junky cars. And he's like, then he had to go into work early one time at like 6. And he's like, you know, it's all like Benzes and, you know, decked out Super Duties. And, you know, he was like, oh, I get it. The rat race people are going in at, you know,
Yeah.
to get to work at 9. And the guys and girls that want more, they go in early because, and that's,
100%, mate. 100%.
Yeah, it's just you're either passionate or driven, however you want to term it. And you know, I'm still I still there's the occasional day where I go, I don't want to deal with this today. You know, one particular instance of something you may go, I don't want to deal, but there's never a day where I go, I don't want to go to work today.
No.
Every like no matter what's happening today, I love my job, I love the opportunity, I love the customers. You know, so fortunate to do what I love, and I'm so glad I made that jump all those years ago. And you know, I never directed my son, and
Yeah. You there, mate? Oh, you've muted at that. Sweet.
but I put my phone on do not disturb, but I just got a phone call. I apologize.
No worries, mate. No worries.
I never pushed my son in this direction. He was always around the shop. Like he learned how to TIG. I mean, he's not proficient TIG welding, but he's been TIG welding since he was like 5 or 6.
Wow.
You know, and my daughter would come in. We'd always make Christmas presents, and but I never forced him towards it. And then you know, he got Tori was about out of high school. He started coming around. He's like, I'm just doing this so I find another job. And you know, 6 months later, he's like, okay, well, here's my 5-year plan. Here's what I want to do there. Here's the role I want you to have. And now he's passionate about it. You know, he loves his own ideas, and we've actually made some parts that were 100% his idea. So it's kind of cool seeing that passion kind of trickle down, or you know, however you want to say it. But yeah, dude. So one more thing about the whole passion thing. You know, in the early 2000s, you would see these guys that watched Discovery Channel and thought, "Well, I'm going to be that next guy. I'm going to be the next guy on the TV." Cash in their 401k, the big truck, the big trailer, and just a trailer full of garbage. You know, like I remember there was a big shop not far from us that went out of business, and I was like, "Oh man, that's wild they went out of business." But I got a flyer about the auction for all their equipment, and I'm like,
wow.
See what's up with that auction and pick me up some good stuff, you know, for nothing." And this same shop pulled up to a local show here in St. Louis. It was the biggest show in St. Louis at the time. It was in like 05. I was so proud that I just got my little trailer with stickers on it. I was so proud. I parked in a great spot so everybody could see, you know, it was Bare Knuckle Chopper back then. These guys rolled in with a tractor trailer, full blown, you know, tractor trailer, and they blocked everybody from seeing my trailer. And like 12 months later, they're out of business, right?
Yeah.
So I looked and like the tools and equipment they had, you couldn't make a wheelbarrow out of this junk. Like it was the biggest assembly of like, not like the little fold down bandsaw that you know, it's like $150 from Harbor Freight and Eastwood. You know, I'm not bagging on any of those.
No. I know what you mean.
If you're doing like real work, like you need a good welder, you need a good bandsaw, you need a good pipe bender, a good tubing bender, a good notcher. And I had all that stuff, but because I bought all that, I couldn't buy the big fancy truck and the big fancy trailer, you know?
Yeah.
21 years in, and I still can't. Even if I could, I probably wouldn't, because I'd rather have equipment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that was the passion. I wasn't, you know, I wasn't a glory hound. I wasn't looking for fame. I don't care about TV. I want to do cool things and, you know, kind of build something that, one day I can look back on it and go, man, it's pretty cool that I made those parts 20 years ago and people are still running them. That's what I
Yeah, man. Yeah, and that's it. And, it's so like even when I've been cutting up. So I don't have a vise at the moment in my shed. So I've been cutting up some bits of metal, and I've been using like a pair of mole grips, clamping it on the side, and cutting it, and like that's where like we said earlier, like that's where the passion comes in, because
Mhm.
it's like there is part of you that goes, oh fuck, and this is where like the old me would have been like, ah, fuck it, like I know I can make this look pretty cool to the best of my ability, but I can't do it because I don't have that. And so like I'm learning a different way. Like, do you know what? Okay, I don't have a vise, but I have a set of mole grips, and I have an edge of a table that I can clamp it on, and like and and that's where the passion is, man. It's
Yeah.
like I'm telling myself like, like I get so I get people take a picture of my ZX10, and I think that was built by a dude that doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Obviously I have the basic understanding of, I built a complete custom subframe, and my idea was right. So if Kawasaki designed the original subframe to go from these points, then that's the points I'm going to go from. So I was lucky that my little brother-in-law, he was only like 15 at tech college. He machined me some bullets that I could put into the original pickup point on the subframe. So I went from a aluminium frame to a steel subframe, and I just like thought to myself, well, I don't even know what I'm doing, but I focused on making sure I went to the safe. The safety was the most important thing. But then I realized that, imagine what I could do if I knew what I was doing, if I knew how to weld properly, and people still appreciate what I did anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I mean, curiosity in any form is generally good, so you're curious how to do this and if you can do that or how that would look. That's going to lead to innovation, and
Yeah,
innovation can be, I'm innovating a new gas tank, or innovation can be, before I innovate this new gas tank, I have to innovate a way to hold it, which is what
yeah,
so you don't even
yeah,
realize. I said it yesterday, we were working on some project and I'm like, man, we're so fortunate to have the tools and equipment that we have, but we still don't have it all. We're still rigging things together that just looks like a complete mess, but it's
yeah.
somehow, you know what I mean? And that's just because we started where you started. And, Mike was the same way, Nine Finger. Um, we all just come from figuring it out. And I've worked in one motorcycle shop part-time, but we didn't, it was like a repair shop. And hell, they would poke fun at me all the time because I wanted to make parts. And I want to just buy it out of the catalog. And now I'm the guy selling the stuff in the catalog. And it's like, well, that's why, because I had
But
a,
yeah, exactly.
and now you guys are buying that same shit from me through a catalog. So,
E- e- Exactly.
and it's like,
Because it's like, yeah,
there's an ass for every seat. If everybody was making everything on their own, then I wouldn't have a job. So I'm very fortunate, that we appeal to people, and people appreciate the effort that we put into what we do.
no, but do you know what though, Paul? That I had a similar conversation with somebody the other week. So like, and this is the same thing. Like the guys like yourself that have stood the test of time and put in the hard graft, like because you started off like where I am, and you appreciate that that's where it starts and everything like that, and you don't you come from, that there's going to be somebody like me or someone that's a little bit maybe whatever that cuts up something and it goes wrong, and they're going to be like, oh right, shit, like we've lost him, we have lost him. Yeah, so that's a bit of an interesting one. So hopefully he'll come back on. Otherwise, I'm just talking to myself. Yeah, let's have a look at the comments. What do you seal your petrol tank with? To be honest, Benjamin, I don't know. I know you can buy kits. Um, you can buy they do like is it a 2-part kit that you obviously swirl around the tank. I spoke to a couple of people about them, and the the thing with them, they say that if it doesn't seal up properly, it's it's pretty. You got to be careful to make sure it's completely coated and set, otherwise it can start to peel off and things like that. So I don't actually know. Um, let's see if we can get him back in the back on here. I don't know what's going on here. It's an interesting one. So, sorry, just bear with me, everyone. I'm just going to see if I can find where he's got to. Yeah. Yeah, so I know there's some kits obviously you can use. Again, I haven't looked into which ones are the best ones to use or anything like that. So what we got here? Building a 90s German style Street Fighter. Oh, cool, man. So again, what are you building? What what is it? A Jigsaw, CBR, ethanol eats everything. Yeah, yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. I think we are back.
I'm
We
so
are back.
sorry, man. My phone
No,
died.
mate, you're cool, man.
I
You're
went
cool.
into it with like 30%, so I'm on a charger. There's no proper charger in my office, so I'm back in the shop now. My apologies.
No, mate. No, it's I was just waffling on. Benjamin Francis in the comments, he's asked, what do you use to seal your tanks up? You know, like once you've obviously fabricated them, do you use a certain product?
Yeah, we use is it Pour 15? I think is the name of it, or no, Red Coat. But the FXR tour bike that you posted, Dave Perowitz painted that, and he said not to coat it, so we didn't even coat that. We always pressure test them up to 6 or 7 psi. But Dave Perowitz is definitely, he's got about 3 or 4 or 5 times the experience I do with custom motorcycles, and he said don't bother coating it; it just causes problems.
Yeah, do you know that's literally before you jump back on, like so I was speaking to somebody, I asked him about, because obviously I'm cutting up a tank and you know hopefully going to have it all pressure tested and that it works.
Right.
And the guy that I was talking to, he said the same thing. He said the thing is, if you coat them, he says if you don't have them coated properly, and meaning that this guy, he said when he gets his done, it goes in a jig, and it just spins round for like a day. You know, so he said if you get like a pinprick hole in it, the fuel gets behind it and it all lifts off anyway.
Yeah, it turns into like a bladder, and it'll actually,
Yeah,
it'll cause other problems.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think a good pressure test, when Mike does it, he'll pressure test it and he puts it in a submerges it in a bucket or a tub full of water, and he'll lock it down and make sure, and he'll leave it overnight and make sure that it maintains pressure throughout the entire night.
okay.
And that, we honestly, knock on wood, we've never had a tank come back for any kind of a leak of any sort. So something's working, whether they were coated or not. We've never had an issue.
Yeah, because what does the actual? I mean, again, obviously, I'm coming across this issue now. Or once it's all welded together, is it to stop it from rusting, or is it to stop it from leaking around the welds? I mean, I don't actually know.
So you mean the coating?
Yeah.
The coating generally is so it doesn't leak.
Okay.
So because let's just say you grind everything down and it holds 3 or 4 pounds, but then something's like paper thin and just the travel, like just riding your bike, bouncing around, and it can still develop maybe a pinhole. We like to get our sheet metal perfect, or as close to perfect as possible. So when we weld it, all we're taking down is the top of the weld.
Okay.
So we don't want to get into the parent metal. We don't want to get into that
Right.
when we're grinding. Of course, there's gonna be some of that. If there's a seam that just isn't perfect, you're gonna get into it a little bit. But I think that just boils down to patience and proper preparation on your sheet
Yeah.
metal. But I don't know, man. I don't know if we just we've got the right process, or we've been lucky, a couple hundred times, but we've never had an issue with it.
So I turned around to the guy that's going to TIG weld my tank together the other day, and I said, "What are you like working with Swiss cheese?" And he looked at me and he's like, "What the fuck do you mean?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Well, put it this way, because the welder. I mean, like my friend lent me a welder, and it's a great welder, and my friend's like awesome for lending me his welder. But because I like I said off air, like obviously I was able to build a subframe, but I had thick tubing, and my friend said to me, he said, right, long as you get, you'll know that the weld is proper when you'll see the nice like tint, the coloring will change to the edge of the weld, and you he said you'll just know. And to be fair, like I said, I did these welds, and obviously I watched videos, and I was told to kind of put an edge on it to allow the weld to kind of sit in the V.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And again, like you said, like put a lot of effort into making sure. So when I notched, like I had a tube like that and I had a tube like that, like the guys were saying to me, make sure you really do put the effort into making sure that fundamentally that tube sits proper, like hugging that top rail,
Yeah.
So I did all that, and like I said, touch wood, it's been fine. But now I'm on sheet metal, and like it's really fucking hard. Like I do a tack weld, and 1 second I'll do a tack, and then 10 millimeters up, I'll do another tack, and it's poof.
Yep.
And I'm like, it's fucking frustrating. But I'm obviously doing something wrong. But like, is it that I have a shit earth, or am I too long?
One thing that gets overlooked a lot when you're welding is cleanliness. You want that material to be absolutely as clean as possible, and that's not just the rule for aluminum or titanium or something like stainless, mild steel, any of that. You want that material to be as clean as possible. And also, your filler rod, I guess you're talking about a MIG machine, but
yeah, I'm currently MIGing.
Your filler rod, even with your TIG rod, you want to take an acetone drenched rag and just wipe down the rod, and you want you want your electrode to be clean. We even use purified argon, purified shielding gas, because it does make just a little bit of a difference. You can see it, so the color that you're talking about around the weld, that's called the HAZ, the heat affected zone. So you'll even see a difference. You'll see a more uniform color when you're using purified argon, and it only costs $5 or $10 more a tank. So when you're buying your shielding gas, it's not cost prohibitive. So cleanliness is a big deal. So even in your shielding gas, you want it to be as clean as possible.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
That'll help
obviously
you.
for me,
but
for
clean
example,
your material too. Like, get yourself a good. What's that?
Yeah. No, I was going to say, all I did when I just cleaned the edges where I was going to weld. I've still got paint on the tank, so I'm guessing that's completely a no-no. And
you want to get that paint back as far as you can, because you might think, I got a ½ inch on either side. It's still going to draw, even, so your shielding gas creates a little atmosphere. It's almost like a little, just like the earth has an atmosphere, right? You're creating that.
Yeah.
Well, when the other things get hot around it and that paint starts to fume, guess what? That's going to get sucked into your whole little atmosphere right there, and that can impregnate your weld. That can make things pop. That might sound like I'm being a little bit too anal retentive, but back in our frame building days, my shop built 700 or 800 motorcycle frames. I've got a lot of experience with all that stuff, and man, the cleaner the better.
But
inside and out.
Yeah, and going back to what you said earlier, it's obviously not like being over the top because you've not had a tank come back with a hole in it.
Yeah, we never, all those frames we ever built, we never had a problem with the frame. We've never had really anything ever come back broke. You'll also notice a difference in how it welds. It's more enjoyable because you're not fighting a bunch of popping, or your arc may not wander as much, and your puddle will be nice and consistent.
Fucking burning your arm right in the middle of a tattoo when it spits on you, fucking bastard.
Oh, my legs are littered with little burns from where the torch would fall off of the fixture table or something, and just poke right through my pants. And poke into my body and then cauterize it as I pulled it out. You know, like I've got all kinds of little holes all over me from welding through the years. But
Fuck.
yeah, man, practice and cleanliness. That's the two keys to welding, I think. You'll figure the rest of it out.
Yeah, nice. I mean, like I said, I mean, for me, the only reason like I'm attempting to customize this tank is because I know that I got a guy that's gonna fix all my shit.
Yeah.
I'm
You know
just
what, though? Like, not a single one of us built a good gas tank the first time we built. I don't care what anybody says. Like, bullshit. Never happened. You created something that you cobbled together and you had to do it multiple times to get it right, or it's got a bunch of, extra weld rod in it, or it's covered up in paint. We all started exactly where you're starting. And
no, that's awesome, man. That's so
yeah,
cool to know. I mean,
all it is, I mean, it's like just like the welding. It's just experience. You just got to
yeah,
keep working
yeah. I
at
mean,
it.
I've got an old like military style jerry can lid, like where it
Mm-hmm.
clonks
Yeah,
off, So
sure.
just trying to again, I'm well at like I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. You like I know at the end of the day the wheel's never going to be reinvented. I just wanted to have a go and just like I know that people are either going to love or hate that. I mean, is it a death trap? Of course it is. I said so. My missus came in my shed earlier, and I was like, "This is." I said to her, "I said this bit is an organ extractor." I said because if I ever hit anything, the first thing that's doing is digging into my chest, taking everything out.
Yep, that's exactly what she wanted to hear. I'm sure.
No, she fucking hates it.
Yeah.
But I suppose I'm leaving her alone. So she's.
Well, and you know what? If you're having fun, what's the harm, man?
That's
if
it.
you're having fun and you're learning and enjoying your time, that's all that matters.
Yeah, and that's it. It's just I think again, like I said earlier, like I love the culture, and I think loving the culture is if this is my little bit that I can add to it, And I think, for example, like as simple as like if I was to put a title on my live stream going how to weld a tank, like I would be a dick because I don't know how to weld a tank. But if I put like watch me fuck up a tank or watch me attempt it, that's different. Even though I'm doing the same video, I'm not claiming. I think, as like I said earlier, like I'm not claiming to be something that I'm not. Do you know what I mean? And
sure.
I think that on that basis alone enables me to kind of sit here and talk with you guys because I'm not sat here going, oh yeah, Paul, yeah, I know exactly what you mean by that type of effect around the world because I don't. And I feel that if I was pretending to be, you probably wouldn't even want to fucking sit and talk to me anyway,
Yeah, I mean, I'll sit and talk to somebody that knows twice as much as me or three times as much as me or somebody that doesn't even really know what a motorcycle is. But if you're being, if you're honest and just genuinely interested, I'll probably talk your ear off.
Yeah, that's it, and it's so what's the plan for the? Have you got some big? I mean, like you said earlier, like you're already really busy, and like the business has done well from last year and moving into this year. Have you got any big, apart from the swing arm? Have you got any big things happening?
Well, parts wise, we have a couple things coming up. We just released our floorboards for touring bikes. We're really happy with those. Those are taking off well. This year, we have some stuff that we've been working on a while. We've got longer, like extended tubes for the inverted front ends. We're just waiting on a coating company to get the bushings coated for that. This year, we're not going to push as hard as we've been pushing the last few years because we kind of have some bookkeeping to do. So we've got almost 800 part numbers now.
Wow.
All stuff that we make. And, with a lot of those part numbers, it's multiple pieces that we have to make. So we're working really hard at getting our inventory system. You can kind of see here behind me. This is
yeah. I was looking. That's insane.
Our, shipping and receiving. And behind this row of pallet racks is all of our stuff that's been made but not assembled yet. And we've got a system started that keeps track of everything and forecasts, when we need to order more parts or when we need to make more parts so that we can get away from the whole back order thing, which is difficult when you're none of us are trained in this inventory system, manufacturing system stuff. We're all just shop rats out, and when you got 700-800 part numbers, you got to back up and do all that. It's kind of daunting.
That's crazy.
So yeah, this year we're kind of, there'll be some stuff. We've got new parts coming out next week. We've got some new brake rotors and some other parts that we're coming out with. But for the most part, this is going to be a year of streamlining and working on efficiency. And we do have some really cool bikes. Like we've partnered up with Pikes Peak Harley Davidson out of Colorado Springs, where they send us a couple new bikes every few months, and we do our thing to them, and then they put them on their showroom.
That's cool.
Very cool. So we've got a really, really, really cool Pan Am that we're wrapping up, and then we've got a really nice.
What's your thoughts on the Pan Am? I know Jesse James recently. I believe last year he recently got his hands on one, and he said he was extremely surprised at how good it is.
It's they knocked it out of the park. It's better than. So I've had adventure bikes in the past. And when I heard they were doing it, I'm like, what in the hell are you guys doing? Getting in, like, BMW and KTM and Ducati. Any one of them I wouldn't want to be up against, and they went up against all three of them. Plus Suzuki's got good ones. Yamaha's got a good one.
Yep.
Kawasaki KLR is a good bike. There's so many good adventure bikes, and Harley just killed it. But there have been some issues with electronics and stuff, electrical issues. We have one here at the shop of our own that we R&D parts on, and I've actually taken long trips on them, both on the highway and through the more adventure bike type stuff. There's a few things I would like to change to be a true like off-road adventure bike. On the street, that thing is absolutely amazing. Like, we had plans on turning ours into kind of like a street fighter.
That'd be cool.
But we just have so many projects right now. We have to get customer work done. But it would be an amazing like naked street fighter, because that bike gets it. I mean, it flat out, it gets after it. And I think they're getting all the little bugs worked out. They came out, and I think probably exceeded everybody's expectations sales wise and performance wise. But I don't know that Harley was really ready. And this is total conjecture. I don't know honestly what happened. Fuel pump issues, some electrical issues, little stuff here and there. And the only thing I can think of was it was right on the heels of COVID, so there's still supply chain stuff going on.
Yeah.
But maybe if they hadn't sold so fast, they could have might have been a little bit easier to, remedy the issues. Yeah. But because they're selling so fast, I'm sure they're juggling like, well, we got to keep them going because people are ordering them. We got to keep customers happy. But it seems every model year they get a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, looking at so obviously I'm only able to kind of get an idea of things just through the power of social media. Like, I kind of got the feeling that the bits that people weren't happy with was almost as if Harley were cheaping out on something really silly that was causing problems.
Well, unfortunately, I think that's that's the scourge of manufacturing right now.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of anything made in China. I mean, other than like Chinaware or,
I know what you mean.
And it's not that the Chinese aren't capable of making good stuff. It's just like, that's the place to go to get stuff made as cheap as possible. And with that comes cutting corners, and with that comes, inferior materials, inferior craftsmanship, inferior hardware. And man, I see more and more of it on everybody's stuff, like, I don't want to blow anybody up here on,
No, I know what you mean.
But like major like big names were, just say you want to put the best brakes in the world on your bike.
Yeah.
And buy a particular brand. Some of those are made in China now. They're not made in Europe anymore. I don't want to get too specific, but
yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me? Like, people are already paying you a premium. It's already more expensive than everything else. Like, if you need to make more money, I know, just ask a little bit more. Don't cut quality and keep the same price. Like,
I noticed, the first place I noticed it, Paul, was like, for example, a brand new Yamaha running Kenda tires. I mean, so for example, like we spoke about earlier on, I'm providing for my family. I work full time. I've got a missus and kids to provide for. So the money I have to put in bikes, I don't have the luxury of being able to buy a set of Michelin tires. So I use Chinese tires. I use Chinese parts, but again, I don't claim them to be extraordinary parts. I just, at the end of the day, that's all I have to work with. But I noticed it that like Yamaha were selling a really expensive bike new with tires that are made in China. Like you're asking all that money and you can't
Yeah.
chuck a set of Michelins on it or a set of Bridgestones.
I think some of the KTM engines are made in China now, like on the 790s and the 890, the adventure bikes.
Right.
It's like just ask a little bit more and, continue to propel your own economy rather than,
Yeah.
this dictatorship. That stuff just drives me nuts because it's like the biggest band-aid because yeah, you save money when you first bought it, but guess what? It's not going to last like it should. It's not going
Yeah.
to be, it's not going to be, the top-notch product that you hope that it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. I wish, I grew up, I don't know how old you are. I'm 47, but
32.
so I grew up in the wake of World War II still and in Vietnam, like I like pride in manufacturing was a big deal. Both of my grandfathers were machinists. One was a master machinist, the other one was a machinist inspector. So it was like the top two
Yeah.
levels you could be in the machinist union and McDonnell Douglas, making aircraft, which is of course now Boeing, and you see the problems that Boeing's having. That's because like they're throwing quality out the window. And when I was a kid, I grew up with if you're gonna do it right. Do it like do everything to the utmost of your ability. And if that's not good enough, you need to get somebody else.
Yeah.
And it's sad because people have dropped quality for quantity. People, they don't want one quality motorcycle or one quality vehicle or one quality watch, one quality handgun. They want 7 of everything so that they can keep up with the neighbor or whoever's on social media instead of just going, dude, I really don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care what those people like. If you saw the motorcycles that I have and some of the other toys I have, you'd be like, oh, I bet this guy lives in a 15,000 square foot mansion. Nope, I live above my shop in a you know half-ass apartment because that's what's important to me is like my
Yeah.
motorcycles, my toys, and my shop, and I've prioritized,
Yeah.
but so many people have to have the big house and the fancy cars and the fancy boat, and then that's where corners start getting cut, and it's unfortunate, but you know what? You got to understand not everybody thinks the same as you do. Probably nobody
No.
in the world thinks exactly the same as you do. So I'm fortunate that a lot of people do appreciate quality motorcycle parts, or else I'd be out of a job. Um, I don't even know where I was going with all of this,
No, I know,
but
I know what you mean.
it
I mean,
just we take. I'm lucky because Mike takes great pride in what he does. Sam takes great pride in what he does. Our marketing manager Nicole, she takes great pride in what she does. That's the core of our group here right now. And then we've got a lot of machinists, and all those guys just are top notch. They don't. Nothing ever comes back that I have to throw away. Everything that these guys make, it passes quality control before it gets to me, even or
yeah.
Sam. Sam's really the quality control guy, but um, I
Yeah, I
just
mean, I was so like where I used to work before. So I work in the injection molding industry. So I make bottle caps. So obviously we
Mhm.
have to work with injection molding tools. So the tools are all machined, and like some of these tools have so the moving half of the tool, it can have 300-400 parts. And it's incredible to see them all dismantled. And
Mhm.
the place I worked years ago in the same industry, I was so lucky to be around machinists that were coming up retirement age. So these guys were like 65,
Mhm.
and incredible. I mean, I've been lucky enough to have a couple of parts made, and like, so I had a carburetor on my bike, and the choke thread had stripped. So what they did is they they drilled it out, they put a new thread in it, and then they machined me an adapter out of brass. Like, and they even put a 10 millimeter like spanner size on. I mean, this part I was just like,
Yeah.
this is fucking incredible.
Yeah.
And these guys were like, man, that's fucking nothing. I'm
Right.
like, what?
Yeah, older machinists they're an odd bunch. They can be
Yeah.
cantankerous, but I mean they're
Oh,
kind of fun,
definitely,
but
definitely.
I mean the real ones are perfectionists.
Mm.
Nothing short of it. And man, I love that. I love that whole man. It's a shame that those guys are retiring and passing on, because I don't know that we'll ever see
Yeah.
anything like them again.
Yeah, I mean, so like one of the guys, like if I ever went to him and I had a so he one of the machines, because where I worked, they stopped making tools, and then obviously they would service tools and repair them, but they didn't. But they used to actually machine them from blocks of metal. They were given drawings, they had to machine, they had to make a tool work. So this guy, one of the guys, he went into robots, making the heads. But if I went to him with regards to can you come and have a look at this robot on this machine? He would look at me like, oh, fuck off. But if I come to him, I was like, oh, Andy, I got this cool idea, and he'd like he'd listen to me, and I wanted to do so. So that tank that I'm making at the moment, that's for a Chinese. I have a Chinese 125, right? And I know, like obviously, like we were saying earlier, like my 125, I've had it 10 years and 11 years, and I abuse the hell out of that. And I can honestly say, for me, for what it is, it's great. But again, like I think that it's okay. Like I said, long you got to take a bit more time with it and understand that it isn't a well machined piece
Right.
of equipment. But so I went to him and I got a kickstart on it. I said I want a knuckle duster on the kicker. And he's like, yeah, I can do that. I said, yeah, but this is where I'm going to make it a bit interesting, is I want to be able to use it. And he says, what do you mean use it? And I'm like, well, I want to be able to use it. I want, if I have to use it in
Mhm.
case of anything. So and I tell you what, Paul, mate, he fucking machined it, and you never knew it came off. And he machined, instead of it being round on the knuckle duster, he machined them to a point. It was a fucking weapon. Like, luckily I never had to use it,
Is it
but
on your feed anywhere? Is it on your Instagram?
no, it's not. No, so he's going back like 10, 11 years ago. I can see if I might
Yeah,
have a picture of it somewhere. I'll send you it. But it was fucking awesome. Like,
yeah, Brad.
And he made it like out of a piece of aluminium and, like I say, machined it. And then it was real simple for someone like him. But for me, it just looked fucking cool. And the fact that it was usable, I could also use it as a kicker. And obviously, I could slide it off. He put like grub screws with ball bearings inside. So I don't know what you would actually call them, but they look like little grub screws, and they had a little spring inside with a ball
Yeah,
bearing.
ball detent.
Okay,
Ball detent. Yeah.
ball detent, and then he machined. Well, then he obviously ran it around. However he did it, he did like some grooves in the kicker, so it actually
Yep.
still span.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, like even my handlebars, like the bottom part of my handlebars is 1 inch solid stainless hexagon bar, and he machined the middles down for me, so it sits on the clamps for the triple tree,
Sure.
and then he machined some holes in, and then brazed some original handlebars I had, because and then like I covered it up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip all the powder coat off, and then I'm going to just get them clear coated, because it's got some really cool
Mm-hmm.
like copper brazing. I'm
Yeah.
guessing it is.
A lot of character.
So going from a mild steel tube into a stainless steel solid, and I hid all that. And now as I'm getting older, I'm like, no, now this stuff needs to be seen. Even though it's only on a 125cc engine, but
Right.
like it's cool as hell for
Having
me.
fun, man.
Yeah, man.
Fun.
Yeah, it's yeah. So that, mate, I think we've pretty much kind of covered
I was gonna
the.
say,
I mean, speaking.
so the work day is over here, so I got to kind of get going anyhow. I got to take care of payroll and everything. So
Oh, that's awesome, mate. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me.
honor, and we'll have to do it again sometime.
Awesome, man. So for people obviously anyone wants to obviously order parts from your website is www.bareknuckleperformance.com.
That's it. And then it's Bare Knuckle Performance on Facebook and Instagram, and then Bare Knuckle Perf on Twitter or X, whatever they call it now.
Awesome. Best way to get hold of you is onto your website.
Yeah, we've got our emails on there and everything, or you can DM us on Instagram. We don't get like Facebook is kind of, we post there, but we don't really go back to it too much. It's just it's a lot of effort for you got so many different ways to get a hold of us. It's like, just hit us on Instagram or send us an email and we'll get back with you pretty quick.
Yeah, man. That's
All right,
awesome.
man.
That's awesome. Thanks again, buddy. I appreciate your time.
All right. Have a good one.
All the best, mate. Bye. Bye.